Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Derrick Broze of the Conscious Resistance Network, and today is Saturday, June 20th, 2020, and I'm going to be doing a brief breakdown of what happened in the second week of the fluoride trial, which I've been covering for the last 2 weeks. And yeah, we'll be getting into all that, answering the question, what's next in the fluoride trial? Before I do that, though, I want to remind you guys to bookmark my website, which is called theconsciousresistance.com. If you guys never heard of it, I recommend you checking it out. I think it's a pretty good website, if I do say so myself. And I do say so myself. It's theconsciousresistance.com. You can get all of my content, my documentaries. For those of you who don't know, I've made documentaries. I also have books. For those of you who don't know, I've written books. There are essays, articles, podcasts. We have several different podcasts covering all kinds of topics on here. You can find conscious music, so much more. Follow us on Minds. Follow us on Hive. Join our Discord channel. Sign up for the text list, guys. This is most important, I think. Do this text list, this little blue cloud over here, and you get updates directly to your phone. Follow me at float.app/consciousresistance. You can find my videos at bitshoot.com/consciousresistance, and of course on library.tv. And finally, if you want to support, you can do so at patreon.com/Derrick Broze. So, for those of you who are unaware and have been living under a rock for the last 2 weeks, or maybe you just don't know who I am and haven't heard my content, there has been a trial going on talking about fluoride. And it's been a historic trial because we've never before had a situation where the evidence for the harm of water fluoridation was presented in a court of law, not only just a random court of law, but in a federal court, where a judge has to make a ruling on whether or not fluoride is safe for human consumption and whether or not it should continue. So this trial I've been covering via Twitter. For those of you who don't use Twitter, I'm on Twitter at dbrozelive3. Let me just show you real quick, and you can see how many tweets I've been putting out the last couple weeks. I mean, I was live tweeting every single day there was court, just following all the different details. As you can see right here, this is me live tweeting as it's happening. Judge Chen says this, this. So if you don't want to go read that, you can read this article I just put together. And this is the second article I've written, third actually, about this trial for The Last American Vagabond. The ruling was delayed as the judge asked the defense and the plaintiffs to discuss new evidence. So I'm going to go over this article and show you some of my tweets. And if you are new to this and you want to go back and read a little bit more about the details, you can, there's a link right here, to week 1 of the trial, and you can learn all about it. So Wednesday, U.S. District Court Judge Edward Chen delayed a ruling in the case between the Fluoride Action Network and the United States Environmental Protection Agency. The Fluoride Action Network is aiming to prove that the harms caused by community water fluoridation, and the government is defending water fluoridation and seeking a dismissal of the petition which was filed by the plaintiffs. Over the last 2 weeks, Judge Chen has heard arguments from witnesses with the Fluoride Action Network and the EPA. Attorneys with the Fluoride Action Network argue that water fluoridation violates the 1970 Toxic Substances Control Act provisions, which prohibit the, quote, particular use of a chemical which has been found to present an unreasonable risk to the general public. And unreasonable risk was a big topic of debate because the whole, conversation, much of the conversation in the court was around what does unreasonable risk mean? And that's often how it ends up in these court cases where you have to try to define these often vague terms and figure out what the hell they mean. So that's where a lot of the conversation was about. And under Section 21 of the Toxic Substance Control Act, or TSCA, citizens are allowed to petition the EPA to regulate or ban individual chemicals. How nice of the government to give us something to petition them with. Judge Chen suggested that the Fluoride Action Network file a new petition with the EPA, a suggestion which the plaintiff's attorney, Michael Connett, was not eager to accept, given the fact that it has taken 4 years for this lawsuit to get to court. Yes, they filed their original petition under the Toxic Substance Control Act in 2016. And after lots and lots of back and forth, they were finally able to get it into a court of law. So they're not very much interested in trying to, start over again. And also, Michael Connett told the court that the plaintiffs might not have the resources to continue this fight for another couple of years, and cautioned against delaying a ruling because it would continue to endanger Americans due to ongoing fluoride exposure. And the EPA attorneys were equally disinterested, stating that there is, quote, no way the EPA could conduct a review within the required 90 days. Judge Chen said he was only discussing delaying the ruling for another couple of months, not years. He also noted, and this is important, so this petition, as I said, started in 2016, and now we're here in 2020. And Judge Chen noted that the evidence that was presented at the trial went beyond, quote, well beyond the administrative record because so much has changed since that petition was filed in 2016. He asked, doesn't it make sense to have the agency take a second look, in reference to the EPA? Now, I will say Judge Chin seemed to be a pretty fair and balanced judge from where I could see. You don't really want somebody who's going to be emotionally manipulated easily as a judge if you're going to have this judicial system. And I think it's anything but just in the bigger picture. But if you're going to have this system, you would want a judge like that, I'd think. And so he did seem to be really sticking it to the government sometimes. And I will say, I think that despite him being a judge, he might be a little naive, or who knows, but he seems to really believe that the EPA is looking out for Americans. And I think most of the evidence would indicate otherwise, but that's what the judge thinks. So Judge Chen noted that the National Academy of Science is expected to publish a study later this year on fluoride, and the National Toxicology Program is working on a review of the literature on fluoride. These new studies, he said, should be considered by the EPA. The judge did acknowledge it is undisputed that fluoride can cause harm to the human brain and is a neurological hazard. Let me say that again. In a federal court of law this week, a judge acknowledged that it is undisputed that fluoride can cause harm to the human brain and is a neurological hazard. One more time for the slow kids in the back. It is undisputed that fluoride can cause harm to the human brain and is a neurological hazard. The only disagreement between the EPA and the Fluoride Action Network, as far as the judge is concerned, hinges on the arguments over the levels at which fluoride can cause neurological damage. So to all of you, like myself, who've been fighting this fight for years, and for me, 10 years, fluoride was one of the first things I woke up to, and have been called crazy. You've just been vindicated. Once again, the conspiracy theorists were right. Something the government is allowing to be put into the water is harming people and has been harming people since the 1940s. Here's one of the tweets from Fluoride Action Network, Michael Connett. He said that it was undisputed that fluoride passes through the placenta and into the fetal brain due to the absence of a fully developed blood-brain barrier. Ultimately, Judge Chen, the EPA, and the Fluoride Action Network agreed to delay a ruling until both parties have time to discuss whether the EPA will revisit the original petition, Fluoride Action Network will file a new petition, or the judge will rule on the current case. And a briefing between both sides is scheduled for August 6th. Now, that's that's what happened, right? That's where it's at, guys. August 6th, things have been delayed. And it was a little disappointing for myself, and I'm sure other people who are waiting to hear a decision and hoping that this week water fluoridation would be struck down. But two things on that. For one, this isn't a complete loss. If the judge didn't think there was strong enough evidence, he would have just struck this petition down back in 2016. If the judge thought that when they came to court, they still didn't have good enough evidence, he would have ruled on it. And he would have said, sorry, guys, but you don't have the evidence required for me to rule in your favor. I'm sorry for wasting your time. And that would be the end of it. Instead, he was sort of offering the EPA an opportunity to do the right thing. Now, I think many of us would question whether that's going to happen, but he was giving the EPA a chance to look at the evidence again. And he clearly told them, like, guys, there's a lot here. There's a lot to look at. And you should probably look at this information, and giving the EPA a chance to revisit it. Now, more than likely, they're not going to budge, and the judge will eventually have to rule. And hopefully the judge will then, at that time, rule in favor of Fluoride Action Network and the plaintiffs and ending water fluoridation. So that's one thing. I think this is not a total loss just because we didn't get a decision on Wednesday like some of us might have liked to. The second thing is, even if the decision had come on Wednesday, it's important to understand that water fluoridation wouldn't have ended Wednesday. It would probably take years for this to happen. It still would be a victory because, okay, a court has ruled this, and that would echo out throughout the United States and throughout the world as people start to question and challenge, wait, the U.S. is just going to end water fluoridation? Why have we been doing that? If they do ultimately rule in favor of the plaintiffs, there's going to be an appeal from the government. There's going to probably be several months, if not years, of back and forth in courts as the government tries to weasel their way out of this and maybe finds a judge that's willing to rule against the Fluoride Action Network. Who knows? But let's say that they do, the Fluoride Action Network wins and the appeal from the government fails and it stands. Even then, the slow machinations of the government, the slow movement of the government are going to guarantee that this is going to take a while. Even if the judge said, hey, it's a neurotoxin, stop it now. Well, think about all the other cities right now that have already paid for fluoride to be added to the water. They've probably got contracts with these different companies. I know Houston does. So it would still be one hell of a shit show to figure this out, but it needs to happen. That doesn't mean we shouldn't push forward just because it's going to be complicated or messy. Now, I just want to give you a couple other points that were mentioned during the trial. One thing that I thought was unusual, Judge Chen admitted that the EPA held the Fluoride Action Network petition on water fluoridation to a standard which is not typical of petitions under Toxic Substance Control Act. Judge Chen said, quote, "The EPA appears to have applied a standard of causation, which from my read of TSCA is not accurate, is not a proper application, and not the proper standard." And this fact was acknowledged by Fluoride Action Network attorney Michael Conant on Tuesday during cross-examination of the EPA witness, Dr. Taylor Henry. Under standard TSCA procedure, parties must show an association, not causation, to prove the harm of water fluoridation. And as I put here in this tweet, Conant asked EPA witness if it's true that the EPA held the plaintiffs to a burden of proof that the EPA has not held a single chemical before. Henry says, "I guess that's true. The EPA apparently has never before held a chemical to a standard of causation. But in this case, they try to do it with fluoride because they're trying to find any way they can to get out of stopping this." And then from there, Michael Conant went into just digging into the history of some of the witnesses for the government, specifically Dr. Ellen Chang, and who works for the corporate firm Exponent Incorporated, which is basically a giant corporate law firm that the government, the US EPA under the Trump administration, hired to bring corporate scientists that are on the payroll of Exponent to come testify in favor of water fluoridation. And that's what this Exponent Incorporated does, is they hire people for that purpose. And several times Conant was questioning Ellen Chang about her involvement with Syngenta, with Monsanto, with Dow Chemical. He asked witness Dr. Chang if she was paid by pesticide company Syngenta to give a presentation. Chang said it is correct that she was retained by Syngenta to testify in an EPA committee. Michael Conant also questioned Dr. Chang about how much she was being paid to defend water fluoridation. Chang stated that Exponent Inc. was paying her an estimated $149,000, and Dr. Chang was also questioned by Conant about her previous work for Monsanto, etc. Specifically, Conant called attention to the fact that Dr. Chang had previously stated that despite an association between Monsanto Bayer's glyphosate and cancer, she concluded there was no risk. And Dr. Chang admitted under oath that at least one peer reviewer of her study on glyphosate found that her analysis of the apparent glyphosate cancer connection, quote, devolved into a laundry list of every possible cause of bias. So she kept getting called out for her work. She also apparently has defended Agent Orange dioxin, funded via Monsanto, in court. She's done studies defending these various chemicals. She's worked for Monsanto, Dow Chemical, CropLife, Syngenta, American Chemistry Council, American Petro Interest, Manganese Interest Group. And yeah, and the way I end this with is this. Despite arguments from the EPA's attorney that the EPA would never fail to act to protect Americans from harm, the fact remains that the US government hired corporate scientists to defend water fluoridation. The EPA attempted to diminish the concerns brought by the plaintiffs and their experts while simultaneously attempting to present last-minute evidence which had not yet been peer-reviewed. If the EPA wants to protect the American people, they should accept the plaintiff's petition and end water fluoridation. If they refuse to do so, Judge Chen should see clearly that fluoride is a neurotoxin which poses an unreasonable risk to human health. So until August 6th, we will know there will be no more action on this trial. There's going to be some, dialogue between the parties and some court filings and things of that sort, but nothing major until August 6th, which is more than a month away. But I will stay on this. I will continue to cover it. When they go back to court, I will be paying attention. I will be live tweeting. I will not let this story die, and I will continue to question and oppose water fluoridation and any other chemicals. Because the thing is, guys, once you start to understand how important water is life, that once you start to understand that there's so many poisons in our water, fluoride is one of them. And the reason I think it's one of the most atrocious is because the people you are paying for it, whenever you pay your water bill, it goes towards a fund, typically on the local level, that pays the city's bill for water fluoridation. So they can add a known pesticide, sodium fluoride in some cases, sometimes hydrofluorosilicic acid, but a known pesticide into your water supply. Now, there are other chlorines and poisons and pharmaceuticals that get in there, but those aren't things that you're paying to put in there that we're being told are for our own good. That's the major difference. So we can get rid of fluoride out of the water. We can start decalcifying people's pineal gland, start helping people's livers and kidneys and skeletons and brain in general, maybe recover and get out of the fluoride flu, the fluoride fog. And then we can continue the conversation about how we get all the crap out of our water. So I appreciate everybody who's been tuned in to my work following this. I just want to say thank you to you. And one thing I do want to note before I wrap up here, for those of you who follow me on YouTube, I know some of you are watching through YouTube, some of you are watching on Float and elsewhere. Guys, if you never noticed this, so you go to my YouTube channel, there's this home page, but there's also, oh, look, I'm live right now. There's also this community page. I really encourage you to check this community page on YouTube, guys, because I post, it's like, this is more like my style. I post videos every couple of days, but I get a lot of thoughts and I write a lot and I post it over here. These are the same things I post on Facebook. I post in my Telegram group. I post in Minds, and I try to keep it up and post on Minds and Float and on YouTube and both my Facebook pages and my Telegram group and my Remind group and all that. My point is, if you want to keep up with my daily thoughts here, not just when I'm making videos, then check this community page on YouTube. I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't think many of you even know that it's there. But that's where we're going to leave it today, guys. I'm going to go ahead and share that link with you to my most recent article for Last American Vagabond, and then check some comments and get out of here for the day. Again, thank you to everybody who's been following my work on the fluoride trial. Go ahead and do a search. You might find 5 articles at most from the mainstream even talking about this, and most of them wouldn't even touch it, wouldn't even go through it. So I don't know, you're stuck with me. But thank you guys so much for the support. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. And this is a good comment from Max. If you have access to high quality spring water, it's definitely better than reverse osmosis, but reverse osmosis will get rid of the fluoride in your water. So of course, if you can drink out of a fresh spring, which is always the goal, then go ahead and drink out of a fresh spring. Wash your hands, wash your feet, wash your face in it. I get my water from a spring every month. That is awesome, man. This is where I'm kind of focusing on going back to in Mexico, which I'll be headed back to in 2 weeks. There's mountains just about 20 minutes out of town, and you can go do that. You can literally fill up your 5-gallon jugs, and everybody who lives up in the mountains, they go there and they fill up their water, and they're getting fresh water right out of the mountain the way that we should be getting it. So here we go. Somebody says, oil, gas, fertilizer all seeps through our water pipes. Exactly. Yes, water is life. Thank you, guys. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much for your support, for all that you do. What's up, Rika? And I have very exciting things to share with you this week. I'm wrapping up a lot of work right now. I'm going to be doing new videos this coming week on what exactly COVID, the contact tracing apps are. I know a lot of you guys are paying attention to that. I'm going to do a breakdown of what the apps are, if you can avoid them, and how to tell if they're already in your phone. I'm going to be doing another video on the Seattle Chaz Autonomous Zone, or they're calling it CHOP. We're going to do that. And I'm also going to do what I think is going to be a great breakdown of the, there's a bug flying on me, of the Great Reset. That's going to be one of the most important things I've done in a while. So please stay tuned to that. Until next time, guys, you know the drill. You are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.